Destination Banter with Tony Smith. Riser.
Welcome back to the studio. And we're joined in the studio today with none other than a Newry Hill Street trading legend, friends. None other than Michael Carlin. Michael, thanks very much for coming into the studio.
You're very welcome.
How are you?
Good to be. I'm great, thank God.
It's a bit warm in here, isn't it?
It's sort of warm at the moment.
Sir, on that
get that hat off.
you know, without crackers there, people, there it goes, and the glasses are off too. So I'm just going to do a few shout-outs, Michael, to all the viewers who are tuned in, and from me and Michael, we just want to say a big riser and welcome. Thanks for tuning in, and to my good friend over in Ohio and Cleveland and New Mexico. You know who you are, Matthew T. Metzler, film director and producer, Philip J. Howard, Joseph V. Sultana, all the guys, Tom Begley, Oliver Brecht. You know who you are. Listen, we're going to Saudi Arabia, and a big shout out to Moscow. So there you are, all our friends are. That covers it all around the globe. Welcome back.
So all these people are watching you.
They're all watching, yeah. It's sort of built up, Michael, you know.
And are these people that you knew beforehand, or just...
There's a lot of them that I did know,
right.
And it's the power of social media, Michael. It's Twitter.
Yeah.
It's Twitter, and it's fabulous. And also a big shout out to Autism Mums Newry and to Newry Inc. I'll be having the crack with the two years very shortly. We're going to try and do a big charity day coming up, you know.
Hasn't the world got a very small place now?
Hasn't it, since all this?
Just amazing.
Now, you were in Hill Street, Michael. We'll get back to that one, right? We'll get back to that one. Tell us about Carlin Records in Hill Street, the legendary shop that served Newry for how long?
Well, we were there for 40 years, 1961 until the year 2000. And you know, I was walking down the street today and down to Bennett's get the paper and walk past it and see the shutters pulled down. It's very, very surreal.
Oh, it wouldn't have happened on your watch.
Well, wouldn't be for me to say.
No, it wouldn't. No, but I mean, I'm jesting on that one. But let's get back. You're the man that started it off, aren't you?
Well, with my father.
With your father.
God be good to him. In 1961, and I went in on a Saturday, and during the summer holidays, and never went back to school anymore after that.
That was it?
That was it.
That was it.
So,
but you must have enjoyed it, did you?
I loved every minute of it. There wasn't one day in that 40 years that I felt that I was going to work.
So it's when a job becomes a job, yes. If that makes any sense. You know, it's like musicians. If they're playing and it turns into a job, they're not offered. So you've been there 40 years and it never felt like a job.
You see, the strange thing about it was I was very friendly with a fella called Eamon Keane. He played in the Casino Show Band, who then became the Indians. And
wow,
everybody that I knew in the show band business said, we're playing tonight in such and such a place. But he always said, we're working tonight. And I always thought it was very strange because, well, I suppose to him it was a job, but at the same time, everybody else was playing, and to me, they were enjoying themselves when they were playing.
Yeah.
But I never felt that I was going to work.
That's a very valid point there, yeah.
Maybe it's the nature of the business, because I think if you're in the entertainment business, and like, I suppose like the record business was a branch of it, that you felt that because it was entertainment, it wasn't really work. I just loved every single minute of it. But the interesting thing about it was, and I always was very grateful, very thankful for the fact that anything that I was ever in, I knew when my time was up. You know, I was involved, say, like in the Newry Chamber of Trade. I was involved in the Hospice Committee. I was involved in Marriage Guidance, all different organisations, the choir.
Wow.
But I knew when my time was up, like in June of whatever year that was, and I came down the steps at the cathedral, or the gallery in the cathedral, on the last Sunday before the summer holidays. And I said, I will never be up these steps again. Because I knew, this is it, your time's up. And that's a great benefit, because you know and I know that there are people in organisations all over the place who stay far too long.
They hang on to the grim
death,
don't they?
On and on and on. And people say, how are we going to get rid of them?
That's such a one, yeah.
You see, my philosophy in all these things is that if there's no movement at the top, there's no room for anybody at the bottom coming in.
That's it.
So if you go along and there's an organisation, should it be a charitable or a cultural organisation, and you'd say, I would like to join that organisation. Should it be, you mentioned Autism Mums there, it could be PIPS, it could be the Alzheimer's Society, it could be any of these things.
That's right.
And you go along and say, who runs this? And if there's somebody who'd been there for 25 plus years, you say, no point in me joining that, because there's no room for any development there, because that person's been there too long.
Yeah.
So I always say the President of the United States could only do 8 years, 2 terms. Doesn't matter how good they are. After the 8 years, they have to go and somebody else comes in. So why should anybody stay any longer than that? You know, the number of people, say Maggie Thatcher. When Maggie Thatcher was elected for the 3rd time, she should have stayed for about 12 months and said, look, bye-bye, trio, I'm away. But in the end, she stayed too long, and the men in the grey suits got her in the end.
They got her, they put her out.
So Rocky Marciano, undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, said, get out when you're winning. So I got out when I was winning.
Stay on top, get out, stay
Exactly.
on top. That's a brilliant one, isn't it? That is a brilliant one.
That's the time to go when you're winning.
Yeah, so you just got the feeling, and you weren't beating yourself up about it either. You knew just get out.
No,
that's the time to go.
But what I knew was that I'd been there for 40 years. We had fed, clothed, and educated our children. We'd paid our mortgage, and none of our girls were interested in going into it. So I said, if they're not coming in here, why am I still here? And that was the sort of the seeds of doubt were sown then.
Yeah.
You know, it's time to go. And it took me a year to make up my mind.
Wow.
And I talked to a lot of people. I got counselling and thought about it, and took a year to make the decision. And I said, right, this is it, I'm going to go now.
My goodness. My goodness, that's incredible.
That was the...
You know, but I'm sure after 40 years, you would have to get counselling for that job. You're sort of institutionalised, even though you didn't realise it.
Yes, oh yes.
You know, because I worked in a large company, and I was there for 22 years, and I I wanted out, and they kept me for another year.
Yeah.
You know, but I knew then, I knew at one point in my term in that job, I knew, this is it, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. But you see, the strange thing about it is, and I've never said this to anybody outside the sort of confines of the family, but the lady who I went to for the counselling said to me, so you're going to sell Carlin Records, and at the moment you're Michael Carlin of Carlin Records. After that, who are you going to be then? And I thought she was mad, she was losing her marbles. But she was right, because, and maybe a year or so after that, I was somewhere, and this person who was serving me said, what's the name, please? And I sort of sat back and said, what's the name? Because all of a sudden...
Do you not know who I am?
Exactly. But I wasn't Michael Carlin of Carlin Records anymore.
But you're Michael Carlin.
You lose that sense of identity.
Well, that's alleged. That's alleged now. Yeah. That's alleged because, friends, I have to say, I left the studio here yesterday, and I bumped into Michael Carlin, and the first thing that I said to you out in that street, hello, Michael. And you were probably going, who's this guy? Who's this baldy thug here? And I shook your hand, and I said, you know, I'm just out of the studio. I would love you to come into the studio. So you're still Michael Carlin. You haven't lost your identity, and people know you. Yeah. Even young people in the streets know you. Yeah. So you've been there. You're.
I've come through that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've come through that.
You've come through that. But you're happy within yourself, aren't you?
I'm very happy within myself.
And as I said to you, we were talking off camera there, friends. I was saying to Michael, now that he's retired, he's probably busier than ever, and that is the case, isn't it?
See, one of the things that I decided to do, and the best thing that ever happened to me, and anybody of my sort of vintage who's watching or listening to this, the U3A is the greatest thing that ever was invented. the University of Third Age up in the old Abbey.
The old Abbey.
Where I spent 6 or 7 years. But
so did I.
That I decided I would join the U3A.
Right.
It was the best decision I ever made.
Is that right?
Oh, it's a brilliant place.
Well, there's a friend of mine, Mary Keenan. Mary was up in it there, and I think they were doing Irish language lessons and art and also. I believe it's fantastic.
There's over 60 different classes.
No way.
Any language you want. There's computers. Now, when I went in, Mavis Gorman, who's the secretary there, she gave me very good advice. And she said, when I looked at the list, and at that stage there were about 40 different classes, and I said, oh, look at that, look at this. And she said, take my advice. Join 2 things, right? Because people come in here and they say, oh, I'll join that, I'll join that, I'll join that, I'll join that.
Yeah.
And by Halloween, they've stopped going to any of them.
Overload, brain overload, yeah.
So I joined 2 things. Now, I'm now in a 3rd thing, but I'm in my 3rd year of it. So, and I joined a life story writing group. We had a little radio program that we used to do on another station, which will remain nameless. And also then we have a drama group. And I joined that.
Oh.
And it's absolutely the best thing ever I did in my life.
And what age group does it cater for?
Well, it's 50 plus.
Right.
So I've just slipped into that.
you just made it. You just made it. He's only turned 50, friends, you know. I have to wait now 10 years, you know what I mean? You know, they're crackers.
But it's great.
It really, it's a good resource, and there's plenty, because I'll tell you now, there's a new reactor, and he was over, a good friend of mine, we were through school, Razor Kieran Cunningham,
right.
the biggie, and he was home, and we actually went to the Arts Centre for a cup of tea.
Right.
Sean Hollywood Arts Centre. Right. And the U3A were in there, and I was actually talking to Mavis Gorman.
Yes.
About coming in for the Banter. Would you believe that?
Oh, right.
And I since then had to go to England and out there, and a few things happening. So I'm back.
Well, you see, the interesting thing about it is the new season will be starting very shortly.
Is that right?
And the registration is done sometime towards the end of this month, and the classes start again in September. So it's a good time, to get people in to talk about it.
Of course.
Encourage anybody who hasn't joined
or doesn't even know about it.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's people out there. I wouldn't even say pensioners, but people over the age of 50, and they're sitting there maybe bored to tears, and there's nothing on the TV. They could be up there mixing with other people, couldn't they? And
well, it's the new friends that you make. That's a brilliant thing, because there's over 600 members.
What?
Over 600 members.
That's incredible. I didn't think it was like that.
It's huge, absolutely huge.
And do you have to pay for this, or?
Well, the membership I think is £20, and each class you go to, you pay £1. That just covers things like insurance and
lighting and
all
of
that. And tell you what, it's the best £20 I've ever spent in a year, because what I get out of that is just brilliant.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
You're talking about your acting. You see, you should come along and see our show. We've done 2 shows now. We did one last year, and then we did one this year based on the show bands, and it was called Save the Last Dance for Me.
Wow. Now,
we'll be going now down to do it in Belfast, but we'll be doing it in the Arts Centre again for a couple of nights, to get it off the ground again, so to go to Belfast.
Very, very good.
It's a brilliant thing. And the chap who takes the class, a fellow called Kerry Rooney from Greenwood Drive, brilliant fella. He's the most supportive and very encouraging and affirming. And he'll say, well done, that was brilliant, even though you know yourself, that was rubbish. But
he encourages you.
Really encouraging.
And supports you.
Yeah.
And that's what you need, isn't it, in life? You know
exactly.
what I mean? The whole way through life, bit of encouragement, bit of support.
And you see the development in people who on the first or second day of the rehearsals, and they're thinking, and maybe you're watching them and saying, oh, no, she'll never make it. But then a few months later, that person's comes out on the stage and does this monologue on their own, and say, wow, how did they do that? But it was done because Kerry stuck with it and encouraged them and gave them belief in themselves.
That's it.
And it's just...
And built up the confidence and showed them how the script rolls.
Exactly.
It's just... Because it's not... You just can't go up there. Think you can read the script and then go up and do it. It doesn't work.
You know that.
It doesn't work.
You've tread the boards yourself.
So you have indeed, and fair play to Biggie, still treading the boards. My mate over in Manchester, so he's great fella, you know. And but can we go back to
back to the music?
Let's go back to the old days on Carlin's and Hill Street. What were the bad days like, the dark days of the Troubles, Michael? Did they affect you in any way while you were in Hill Street?
The interesting thing about it was that although you had a lot of disruption in terms of maybe a bomb scare, and the place would be closed, the street would be closed maybe all day, so you'd have lost that whole day's business.
Yeah.
Or like on several occasions, there was a bomb just across from us where McManus's was, or Tavies is now.
Yeah.
And like it was sort of practically demolished, and the whole front of our shop was damaged, and you were closed for 2 or 3 days. But the interesting thing about it was because of the Troubles, people weren't going out at night. You know, you're afraid to go out after dark.
That's right.
So home entertainment became the big thing. So people were buying new TVs, new hi-fi systems, buying records. They were entertaining themselves at home because they were afraid to go out.
And that made sense, didn't it?
That was a good,
yeah.
That was a plus side, but there was obviously a downside of it because there were times when we were closed more days in the week than when we were open, you know. But everybody was very resilient.
Yeah.
You know, we kept on going, and you learned to adapt to it.
Business as usual. Do you remember all the business as usual posters? And that's not funny, isn't it?
Well, you see, you either adapt or die. You know, you can't lie down under these things. So you learn ways of coping, and that's with any sort of a challenge you have in your life. You learn to cope with it.
On your shop, it was more like a music centre of Newry in the day, wasn't it? Really and truly, because there wasn't many music shops.
It was a gathering place.
It was a gathering place.
People gathered,
and people used to, you know, I'll see you down at Carlin's at 3 o'clock, and that, you know, that's what it was, wasn't it?
I remember coming up to the release of the first Sands family, the Sands family.
The Sands, yeah.
Clever. And they had a very clever little thing running in the small ads of the Newry Reporter. And say Saturday the 20th of July, the album was released, and I'll meet you outside Carlin's, and I'll have a copy of the Sands family new LP under my arm. You know the way if you're meeting someone, I'll have a paper under my arm. So you had a copy of the Sands family LP under my arm. So people were coming along, and there was Tommy Sands standing outside the shop with the LP under his arm.
Great fella, isn't he?
So it was used like it was, say, like in Dublin where people say, "I'll meet you at the Pillar."
That's the one, yeah.
Meet you outside
or the Halfpenny Bridge. I see at the Halfpenny Bridge, it was Carlin's. It was either Carlin's or Woolworths. I'd see you outside Carlin's or Woolies. And it was all, you know.
Exactly, that was your meeting point.
Saturday was the big day for you, wasn't it? All the school kids would be off.
Saturday was all the other days in the week rolled into one because people were off. Saturday morning particularly, people were down the town, and at that time, like, the market was huge and people were down to the market, and they were doing all their shopping at that end of the town, so people were, and particularly when, say, the women were in Boyd's, or they're in the market, or they're over in Phillips's getting their fruit and vegetables, or they're in McCann's getting the bread.
Yeah.
The husbands were in with us. You know,
oh, yeah.
they didn't want to be doing the shopping. So they'll say, "Oh, call from me, I'll be Carlin."
Yeah, I'll be in Carlin's, I'll be having a look around.
Or you would see the women coming in and putting around the door. Has he been in here yet? You know, so they knew where they would be.
You were like a street watcher sort of thing. No, he's actually he's out the back there or something, you know.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable the way things turn out, you know. And I remember buying my first big Thin, you know, the double album.
Oh yeah.
Wow, Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. And I thought this is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen a double album.
Exactly. They were a big thing.
And Carlin's had them. And as all these young lads, we were all at school, and we're all saving up. And the big thing was, who's going to be the first one to get it out of Carlin's?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately for me, I wasn't, but I did get one. I did get one, you know.
Yeah. But in those days, you see, you had to save up.
You had to save up
to get the LP, because a single, well, in pre-decimal days, was 6 and 8 pence, and you got 3 singles for £1. But an LP was about 3 times that price.
That's the one.
You know, and the interesting thing about it was, you know, when CDs came out and people were complaining about the price of a CD, what I used to say, the Beatles were in the King's Hall in Belfast in 1964.
My goodness.
And it was 10 shillings, 50p, 10 shillings to get in.
To get into the Beatles?
Right? Now, the Beatles LP was 32 and sixpence. So it was 3 times more expensive to buy the LP than to go and see them
to actually
live,
go to the gig.
right? In recent years, a few years ago, they brought out, the Beatles never allowed any of their stuff to go on compilation albums or to have a greatest hits. They still just sold all the individual albums. But around about, I think, say 2008, 2009, they brought out the CD, Beatles number ones, and there's a big number 1 on the front of the album. And that was $9.99, right? Paul McCartney was in the RDS in Dublin, €120.
Wow.
So the whole thing.
How the tide turned. That's unbelievable.
You know, so.
And then we'll get back to social media, Michael. What about this?
Well,
did you ever imagine anything like this could ever?
Well, you see, it changed the whole business.
It changed everything, didn't it?
The digitalization, if that's the right word, of music changed the whole thing, because it's not that people are not listening to music anymore.
Yeah.
They're listening to it in a completely different way. And everybody has their iPod and their iPads and all of that. But just as other businesses have been affected by it, travel agents, newspapers, the printing business, all of these things that people went to a specialist to do, people are doing this for themselves now.
Yeah.
And people are getting up in the morning and put on the iPad or put on the computer, and all the news is there. So the number of people, say, not buying a paper anymore in the day.
The knock-on effect of it.
All of that.
And now you're getting your groceries. So you just get on to one of these big grocery stores and they even deliver it.
So all of that.
You don't even have to leave the house.
But you see, to me that's sad.
To me that's sad too.
Because it's the interaction.
Yeah.
Now, my daughter and her husband, they have 2 spar shops, one in Bestbrook and one up at Clog.
Right.
And after I retired, I went out there, you know, to help them. And early on in the year there, and I had a bit of a health scare, so I just go out now on a Saturday morning and have a bit of crack. I went out one day shortly after I came out of the hospital, and just come out to get a few groceries, and then they got very busy. So I went in behind the counter, and I called this lady. I says, "Come on over to this till and I'll let you away."
Yeah.
So she came over to the till, and she says to me, "You're supposed to be taking it easy." I says, "What do I tell you something? Standing behind this till is better than a tonic, you know, because you're meeting the people. And that communication with people is very, very important. And okay, it's very convenient to press the button and get your groceries delivered, or for people who are very, very busy, or people who are housebound, all of that is very important. But there's nothing to beat the across the counter communication between the customer and the person serving them.
A bit of banter.
And people appreciate that. Hello, how you doing? That's a lovely day. I went into a shop in Newry, which will remain nameless, and I bought 2 items. And I went up to the counter, and the young female assistant behind the counter was standing there, and her friend was standing beside her. And she took the 2 items from me, took my money, gave me my change, and never even looked at me, right? So I said, "Don't mention it." She says, "What? Sorry, what do you mean, don't mention it?" And I said, "Oh, I thought you said thank you." So she didn't take me under her notice. Now, people appreciate saying, Louis Walsh tells a great story. And when Louis Walsh was about 14, he went to work for this guy in County Mayo. And it was the traditional Irish grocer's shop, pub, and undertakers.
Undertakers, yeah.
Right? So he went in to work for this guy. And the man who owned the shop said to him, "One thing," he said, "I want you to remember." He said, "A customer acknowledged is a customer half served." So the customer walks in through the door and you say, "Morning, John. How you doing?" So you've acknowledged that customer's presence. They immediately feel welcome. So that customer's already half served.
And you've asked them, "How are you doing?"
Exactly. Or "That's a lovely day." Or "God, that's an awful day."
Or "I like your nice jeans there, mate." Or
exactly.
anything.
Yeah. So you have an interest in that person as a person, not just as a potential source of revenue.
Yeah.
You're interested in that person.
Yeah.
And when that person feels of value, then they'll come back to you again.
Well, I have to agree with you. I mean, there's certain shops you go into and they're standing there, they're going like that, and you're going up. Do you take that? And they go, "Yeah, no, bleep. Yeah, it's 320. Do you want a bag with that?" And they're not even. You're there. It's 320. Do you want a bag with that?
But I think, you see,
You know,
I'm a great believer in looking the person in the eye.
that's where I come from, Michael. That's where I come from.
You know, and
it means a lot, doesn't it?
It means everything.
Within a split second, you know whether you like that person or not, and that's the way I operate.
Yeah.
And when as I say, friends, when I met you out in the street there yesterday, and I just done that, and I says, "Hello, Michael, how are you?" And you went, "I'm good." And I says, "Do you fancy coming in for the banter?"
Yeah.
And here we are. The man's in for the banter, and he's looking at me in the eye, friends. And this is, it's very important, isn't it?
Very, very important.
Very important. But I think, as society, I think we're slightly losing the edge due to social media. Because people are too wrapped up in it,
yes.
you know.
We are losing that, and that's a sad thing, because when you see young people now, particularly even primary school children, and they're on the whatever piece of electronic equipment that they have, but they couldn't say hello to you.
Yeah.
Because they're too wrapped up in this.
Yeah.
You know.
Indeed, yeah.
And I think it's important, you know, particularly for children, particularly for primary school children, that they remain children for as long as possible, and that they read their books and they play with their dolls or play football or wherever it is, rather than be stuck in this. And this idea of, you know, I have 551 friends, but they're not your friends. You know, your friend is the person that you meet up with and go and have the crack, or go for a walk with, or go for a pint, or whatever it is. That's your friend.
Yeah.
This person who's sort of writing this nonsense,
befriended you on social media. Yeah.
They're not your friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know when things go wrong who your friends are.
No, that's a very, very, very valid point. When you're kicked to the ground, that's when you know. And as a human being, we all get it from time to time, should it be a bereavement in the family or something, but when you're down, that's when you know where your friends are, you know. Unbelievable the way things turn out, isn't it? But
things have just, you know, I think I heard somebody saying something recently that the change has been more dramatic in the last 10 years than it had been in the previous 100 years. You know,
it seems to be,
the pace of change has accelerated.
Yeah.
You know, and particularly as far as electronics are concerned.
Where is it going to stop?
You just couldn't keep up with it.
It's completely and utterly bonkers.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. I think it's good to embrace it. I like to see a bit of change, but I mean, you know, you think back to years ago, you had a camera, you put a big film in it, you winded it up, you had to take a photograph. If the light wasn't right, it didn't come out. You had to send it away to get it developed. Talk about 2-3 weeks. Your photographs will come back.
But now you see it instantly.
Now you can just do that there and put it up on the World Wide Web.
And you can decide, well, I keep that. And also you see that if you're taking a photograph, you can take 5 or 6 photographs and then delete the ones that you don't want.
Or even edit them.
Print them, or whatever you want to do with them. Or our middle girl now, she lives in Boston, and the amazing thing about it is, like, when they were away there in Cape Cod on their holidays,
beautiful place,
take a photograph of the children on the beach, and a minute later I can see that up in Creve Court, and you're looking at it and saying, that's travelled 3,000 miles, like in a minute.
It's a split second, bang! The minute she done that,
I have it.
It's incredible. Give her a shout out there to Boston. I lived in Boston for a while, and I know Cape Cod, beautiful part of the world. So a big shout out to you.
We were to go to with them to Cape Cod in June, but unfortunately, with my health problems now, I'm not allowed to fly. So, but a very good friend of mine and this is the very plus side of the social media. A friend of mine from Warren Point, a very good customer of ours in Carlin Records all over the years, and he emigrated to Canada. And we keep in touch now through email. And I emailed him, and my daughter had kept in touch with people through my emails when I was in the hospital and told them that I wasn't well. So I emailed him and said, I was sitting at the computer looking out through the window. It was absolutely lashing. And I sent him an email and I said, yeah, I'm sitting here looking out and it's absolutely lashing. And I should be sitting on the beach in Cape Cod. But he emailed me back on the crack about the music and all of that. And he said, do you see that Cape Cod? He says, it's not going anywhere. He says, you'll be there next year.
I like that one.
So
I like it. Well, hopefully you will be there next year.
I will be there.
Yeah,
I will.
You're a very determined gentleman, I have to say, and
Well,
I'd say you will.
Yes.
You're positive.
Yeah.
Can we talk about music, Mike?
We meant to talk about music, we haven't talked
Come
about
here to me. Music's changed, hasn't it?
Well,
It's changed. You know, it's different. It seems to be going acoustically now again. It seems to be going back to, you know, there's our usual groups, rock groups and all that I love, fabulous, you know, but it seems to be changing.
I always loved singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
And people who could sit and play their own guitar and sing their own songs.
Yeah.
And you know, there seems to be a revival in that at the moment now. People, that's coming back again. You know, there's a lady now, and she's going to be in Armagh in a couple of weeks, Beth Nielsen Chapman, and wonderful singer-songwriter. And she's written some terrific songs, not only for herself, but for all the big country music names and folk names as well. And she has a wonderful song called Sand and Water. And she wrote it after her husband died from cancer. She wrote this song called Sand and Water. And really the message in the song is that, you know, when you look at, say, a building, and it's up there and it's strong, or look at a house, all it is really is sand and water.
You're right.
And how something that's she was looking at her husband, as far as she was concerned, he was strong, and he was gone. So really, instead of this being this pillar and rock in her life, he really only was sand and water, and collapsed and died.
I think we're all with the sand and water.
But she wrote this. It was a brilliant
It's
singer-songwriter.
unbelievable. I like that.
If you get a chance, she's going to be in Armagh in the marketplace, and she'll be in I think it's the Waterfront as well. So
Wow.
if you get a chance to go to see her, she's a really great singer.
There you go. And any of my friends listening, you know who you are. If you want to go to the gig, give us a shout, you know, because I love going to gigs.
Yeah.
We're good close friends,
Yeah.
and you know, it doesn't matter where the gig is. If it's a good gig, I'll try and get to
Exactly.
it, you know.
Well, see, somebody used to say to me, what's your favourite type of music? And in our business, you had to know all the music. You know, there was no point in knowing what was in the charts if you didn't know what was happening on the classical music scene or the country music scene or jazz or folk. You had to know all of that. And to me, there's only two types of music, good and bad. So you're looking at something and saying, well, I don't really like that sort of music, but your man's good. You know,
Yeah,
you have to appreciate somebody who's good,
Yeah.
doing a good job on it.
Yeah.
And if it's good, then that's fine.
And then, you know, there's been songs all through my life, and the first time you hear a new song, I don't like that, you know, because you weren't up for the change. I don't like I'm not buying that album, you know, that type of thing. And then you'd hear it getting played on the radio, and then you start, you know, something that's different.
Exactly.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
And the next thing, where would you go, friends? Carlin Records. You but down here, Michael, I have to get that there.
But the interesting thing you see about new stuff is that, and I know a lot of people that what you're saying is they play all their old music all the time, or they maybe follow a particular artist, but they don't want to hear the new stuff. You know, they'll go to a concert and say, oh, they did too much new stuff. But I'm a great believer, if you have something new, even with if I'm out for a walk and have the iPod, if I put something new on, that freshens up everything else that I have, because I have it on the shuffle. So when you put something new on, that changes the whole running order. You know.
Yeah.
So this new, when I put on something new, then I want to hear the rest of the stuff as well, because that freshens up everything up for me. So new stuff is very, very important.
Yeah, and it is, keeps it fresh, you know. And I have to say, there's a lot of talent in Uri. The amount of young singer-songwriters that I'd had in the Banter show, and they've got places, you know, they have got places. And for instance, the Shout, young lads from Kilkeel and Warren Point, they're unbelievable. They've done their first UK tour after being on the Banter show. Then they've done their second. Now they're back. Now they're printing T-shirts. Albums getting released, and I think I love it. I love every second of getting bands in. So if you've any singer-songwriters, bands, I don't care. Get in here. Get in for the Banter, because when we were growing up, Michael, your place was a hub of activity. Carlin Records was a hub when we were only young people going to school and that. And because there was no TVs back in the day, music was what we all thrived on. So I was brought up in music.
Yeah.
You know.
But you know, one of the best things that has ever happened in this area, and it happened all over Northern Ireland, different areas, the music service in the schools, Southern Education and Library Board music service. The great thing about a lot of these young people now who are into music, they can read music.
True.
You know, and they're multi-talented, multi-instrumentalists.
Yeah.
They can put down the guitar, play keyboards. The next thing they're playing a trumpet or they're lifting a clarinet. You know, and all this music education in the schools has been the greatest thing ever. Like when we were at school, there was no music education in school.
No.
Now, from a very young age in primary school, children have been given recorders, violins, double basses,
French horns.
Yeah, all of this.
It's unreal.
And they're introduced to music at a very early age. And because they've been taught music, you see, to me, being able to read music, it's like having another language. And that you can take that music with you anywhere you go. That travels. You know, whereas a lot of, in our days, people were bluffing themselves with 3 chords.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But these young people now, they can read the music and play the music, and the standard has got so high now. I heard somebody saying on the radio yesterday, and they were talking about music crossing divides. And the person who was speaking on the radio said, I don't care if they're Catholic or Protestant or Hindu or Muslim. The only thing I say, can he play? That's all that matters.
That's a bit of an Irish thing there, isn't it?
You know, can he play?
Yeah, can he play? Yeah.
And if he can play, great. If he can't play, get him out.
Yeah.
But don't ask him what his religion is.
Yeah.
Right, play that tune there.
Or even if he can't play, can he sing?
Exactly. Yes.
Can he sing? Has he a good
Has he any
voice?
talent?
Has he a talent? See.
Exactly.
And that reverts back to it's. I think it's gone through. It's through the Irish. It's been through. I don't know. It mostly the Irish people. All our lives, it's been music, 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 and no matter where you go in the world, if there's an Irish bar on, you go in, there's music playing. You know what I mean?
See, I always say that music is the soul of Ireland. You know, Ireland
I couldn't have put it better myself, Michael.
Culturally, Ireland is a very rich country.
Yeah.
In terms of the game that you were in, the drama, the literature, and particularly in the music. It really is the soul of Ireland.
Yeah, yeah.
And like when you hear somebody like, say, Dolores Keane singing,
Wow.
and some people say that somebody, you know, when singers are being taught, and they're being taught, you know, to sing from here.
From there, that's right.
Right? Dolores Keane sings from here. You know, her heart and her soul is in it. So she's not just a mechanical singer.
Yeah.
You know, and that is like true. What
She's singing from the soul.
Music's the soul of Ireland.
And I've been talking to different musicians about that as well over the while, and musicians. There's a lot of musicians play from the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're talking about reading music. I know some very talented musicians, and they couldn't read
Oh no,
music
they can't read.
to save their lives.
Yeah.
If they read that, or you're going to die. They would just, I guess I'm going to die here. I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
But these guys can go up and they're pitch
yes.
perfect.
Yes.
They can tune a guitar, they can tune a bass, whatever.
Yeah.
But they know what they're doing, even though they never ever.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
different thing again, you know. But you see some of them playing now. The first Blues Festival was on, and as I say, a big shout out to Ian Sands, great job.
Yep.
That's a started. I'm glad that's a kicked off now.
Exactly.
Because it's going to happen every year. And I was out at a few gigs, and it's when you see the likes of guitar players and they're leaning back, they're not even looking what they're doing. There's no music.
They're in a different world.
They're zoned in.
Yes,
they're in
right.
the zone. But they're to me, that's playing from the soul.
Oh yes.
You know, should it be heavy or should it be mellow and light?
But they're playing for the love of it.
That's it.
You know.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. If anything come from the soul, you know, you can't teach somebody to sing from the soul.
Yes.
It's, you either have it or you don't have it, or you can develop it maybe. But it's a very rare thing. It's not rare, but it's a strange sort of setup, isn't it?
I was thinking before I came in here today, back over, you know, different musicians and singers, you know, from Newry, and talking about the soul. One singer who sang from the soul was Patricia Grattan. Now, long before your time, sang in the Hilton Show Band, and Patricia would have been with the right management and been kept on the right track. Patricia would have been Cher or Tina Turner. She could have been any of those.
Her daughter's singing. Her daughter is singing.
I didn't know that.
And I'm going to research. I'm going to find this out,
Right.
and I'm going to try and get this girl onto the Banter show.
Right.
And I believe this young lady is out of this world.
Yeah.
The voice and the soul, like her mother.
Yeah.
But I believe she's fantastic,
Well,
and simply fantastic. You know.
But it's interesting, you know, how many girl singers or female singers that Newry had, you know, with Eleanor Toner, Patricia, Clodagh Rogers.
Clodagh, yeah.
You know, all of those. And like, for an area that small, so many female singers who made it up to recording contracts and TV and all that. And
Even Leon, powerful voice. Wow, way.
Well, I was watching New Year's Eve, a good few years ago, and we normally go to friends on this New Year's Eve, but my wife wasn't well, so she's lying on the settee, and I'm sitting watching whatever RTE show was on, and Daniel O'Donnell was on. So I'm watching Daniel, and I says to Joan, the best singer on that stage, you cannot see her. And she says, what do you mean? I says, you can hear her, but you can't see her. Leon in the backing singers.
Wow.
And she was absolutely amazing.
Oh boy.
Amazing singer.
Some voice.
Yeah, she had a brilliant voice.
Really, really good.
And when it came to recording and being on tour, Leon was the first one that Daniel sent for, because her backing vocals were second to none.
There you
Really
go.
Brilliant.
There you
Absolutely
go.
Brilliant.
It's incredible, isn't
Yeah.
it? Really is.
And
I've seen her singing. There's no big effort. She doesn't put any big effort in it.
It's
from here.
Yeah,
And that
exactly.
girl, if she
Yes.
wants it loud, it's loud.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
but
it's-
it's
it's
brilliant.
effortless.
Her tempo, everything.
Everything.
Isn't it?
Yeah. You see, but she was absolutely top class.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5.
And that's so we haven't
Yeah.
even started. We haven't
Exactly.
thought about it hard here. You know what I
Haven't
mean?
scratched the surface.
We haven't even scratched the surface, friends. But we're getting at this here now. Our studio managers have to give me
Yes,
that there.
wrap up.
The big time, the big time out thing. But I have to say, Michael, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in the
I
studio.
enjoyed it very much.
And I enjoyed it too. And thank you so much for coming in so quick.
You're more than welcome.
And We'll come into it another time,
we'll come some other day.
And listen, you get well soon, because you have to go to Cape Cod.
Indeed.
So everybody in Cape Cod, a big shout out to you. All my friends around the world, Michael, give them a razor. So nearly more, 2 to the right, 1 to the left. Razor. So for me and Michael, we're out of here, friends.
Destination Banter with Tony Smith. Riser.